Up, we have some announcements. Again, we made this last week, but we'll do it again this week, and it's open till Friday. The town of Goffstown seeks its oldest resident in the town of Goffstown. If you're living in Goffstown nursing home, you are eligible for this distinction if you resided in Goffstown prior to entering the nursing home. The previous holder of the Boston Post cane has passed away shortly after her 102nd birthday. The Select Board will hold open the nomination period until October 29, 2021. Selection of the oldest nominated person is anticipated to be approved by the Select Board meeting as soon as possible. If you would like more information about the history of the Boston Post cane, the town's website has an article entitled Boston Post Cane History and Guidelines, which can be accessed through public notices. Please contact Catherine Fisher at, we have to use the 603 now, 497-8990, extension 100, if you know of anyone who may be eligible for this award. Nominations must be submitted by a family member. You will need to provide the person's name, address, phone number, and date of birth. Again, the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services has announced the annual fall drawdown of Glen Lake and ponds controlled by dams owned by New Hampshire DES. Glen Lake on the Piscataqua River in Goffstown will have a drawdown on Saturday, October 30th. Glen Lake will be drawn down about 1.5 feet from the full level. On Saturday, October 30th, a release will be made from the Greg Falls Dam in Goffstown to provide an opportunity for canoeing, kayaking, in the Piscataqua River downstream. This release will begin at 10 a.m. Lake drawdowns are conducted each fall to reduce winter ice damage to shoreline properties and reduce spring flooding. Drawdowns also give property owners the opportunity to conduct any necessary repairs to their waterfront property, provided they first secure a permit from the New Hampshire DES Wetlands Bureau. That number is area code 603-271-2147. If anybody has any questions, you can always call Town Hall and they'll help you with that. It's not 10, you want to start?
Sure. Schedule? At tab 4, you have your committee meeting schedule. On Wednesday at 6:30 p.m., Historic District Commission will meet at Grassmere Town Hall.
Yep, got that.
Thursday at 7 p.m., Planning Board will be in Town Hall, this room. I think, is that you, Selectman Adams?
Yes, I'm sorry.
That's okay. 7 p.m., Budget Committee will be over at the high school in the Media Center.
Yep, got that.
Next week, just a reminder, on Monday, Select Board will have a meeting here at 6 p.m. Wednesday at 6 p.m., Economic Development Council here at Town Hall.
I'll be there.
On Thursday of next week, Planning Board will be meeting here at 7. They've changed their schedule up a little bit for November. They're going to the 1st and 3rd. So.
Yeah, I have that.
And then 7 p.m. will be Budget Committee at the High School Media Center.
Yep.
Is there any talk about rescheduling Parks and Rec yet? No.
No, I do not have a date for that yet. Consent agenda, you have a betterment assessment warrant in the amount of $20,353.25. This is for the Lynchfield Danis Park Drinking Water Project. That needs a signature of the entire board. You have rights to inter for West Lawn Expansion Cemetery, Section W1, Lots 1 and 2. And Shirley Hill Cemetery, Section 2, Lots 37B and 38B. There's a sympathy card in your packet, as well as poll licensing for PSNH poll number 12-0895 at High Street and North Mass Road.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by Chet, seconded by Jim. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes 5-0.
With just a note, there's 2 sympathy cards.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yeah, thank you. At your next page, you've got your assessor's recommendation. This is a report of timber cut and timber tax warrant for map 6, lot 24-41.
Make a motion to approve the assessor's recommendation as presented for the timber cut, map 6, lot 24-41.
Second. Anybody questions? Nope. Seeing none, motion by Mark, seconded by Jim, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes 5-0.
Your next page, you have the 2021 Equalization Municipal Assessment Data Certification. Just a few notes for anybody watching. Currently, our assessment for the median assessment, the sales ratio is at 71.6%, and the mean assessment is at 72.5%. So the assessor is recommending approval and signature by the board for that.
Need a motion?
Yes, please.
I'll accept that motion on the Equalization Municipal Association Assessment Data Certification.
I'll second that.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Chet. Any discussion? How does this compare to last year?
I think, I don't have the number of last year, I can look it up during the break, but we were in the low 80s last year. The market has changed quite a bit. Talking with the assessor, he is planning on doing a reassessment or revaluation in 2023. That'll be year 5 when it's required by the state. Feels that the market's still a little bit too volatile to be doing it next year, so he's going to wait the full 5 years until 2023.
Okay, thank you. So a motion on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, seeing none, motion passes.
At tab, the next page, you've got special event permit request. This is an acceptance of donation in the amount of $2,500 to the Parks and Rec revolving fund. This is for the LL Bean pop-up that occurred back in September. We had a similar donation offer last year that was accepted and was designated for the Parks and Rec revolving fund.
Make a motion to accept the donation of $2,500 to be deposited into the Parks and Recreation Revolving Fund in accordance with New Hampshire RSA 31:95-E.
Second.
Motion by Collis, seconded by Mark to accept the funds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes.
And at tab 4E, you just have a letter from New Hampshire Municipal Association. They're seeking their annual update for authorized only list for our legal services. In the past few years, that has been authorized for the town administrator. So you do have a sample letter in your packet for that, and then typically whenever we need a legal opinion from NHMA, which is part of our dues, it would flow through the town administrator.
Can we change, add to that the town administrator or designee, so if you're not around, the assistant town administrator could call?
Yeah, if that's the board's pleasure, absolutely. I don't know how we would tell them what the designation is. Do you want to add the assistant town administrator as the 2 authorized contacts?
Yes,
Yeah,
it's either you or Danielle that's here anyways.
Yeah, yep, we can definitely do that.
That would be my only.
Yeah, I can make that
My only
change.
suggestion would be that.
Yep.
So you're gonna limit it just to the to Danielle position?
Pardon me?
You're just gonna limit it to Danielle's position, right?
Yes,
The backup.
town
Yeah, okay.
administrator and assistant town
Yeah, okay,
administrator.
yeah.
And he does go on vacation occasionally, and if we need something comes up, we want to be able to.
No,
Yep. Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the drafted response, designate the town administrator or assistant town administrator as the authorized points of contact for legal opinions from NHMA Legal, and authorizing the select board chair to sign.
I'll second that.
Motion by Chet, seconded by Collis. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
aye.
Opposed, abstained, seeing none, and it is 6:10. Is there anybody here for public comment? Go on front, sir, and state your name.
My name is David Sharpus. I live on Church Street. And I've been a longtime resident. And when we were going through the transition of Maggie to the new Public Works Director, I've been trying, since she's been here, to get signage for our crosswalks with no success. I've also been trying to get signage for the beginning of Church Street, because when I first moved into this community, there were 3 areas I thought were very distinguished. One was the area where you transition from Mass Road into Goffstown. which is a 40 to a 30. And it's a school zone. And I've been trying ever since to get the proper signage for that crosswalk with no success. I've also tried to get crosswalk signs for 3 other areas in town with no success, but yet everybody agreed we needed signage there. And it never happened, okay? And since that Main Street program, Church Street has basically become a dumping ground for 18-wheelers, subcontractors, you name it, shortcuts. And there's no speed limit. It was 30, but I believe it should be 25 now, because we're still getting 18-wheelers, dump trucks, box trucks, all sorts of flatbeds and so on through the neighborhood. And when I first moved here, I addressed the crosswalk issue, and then I found out that where the fire department headquarters is, all the way down to Main Street, was a no parking zone. And over the years, signs wear out, they get knocked over or whatever, and I've been trying to get them replaced. And I've gone everywhere I could possibly go to get assistance for that. I finally ended up going to the police department, and through the police department, I was able to get some signage as well as a crackdown of all these construction vehicles using us as a shortcut. Plus, there's no speed limits on the residential side or where the fire headquarters is down Main Street. And when I first came, I thought it was very unusual for that area to be a no parking zone, period, on both sides, okay? But I figured out why it was a no parking zone. And the reason it wasn't is because of the fire apparatus. Now, over the years, things changed. We ended up with bigger apparatus, bump outs, stuff like that. And I just think people should really consider that a no parking zone, just like we did when we did Main Street and we eliminated no parking going up the hill towards St. Lawrence Church. But the only time they parked there was on Sunday. So I'm not only concerned, but I just like to give some grades out, and a big thank you through the Goffstown Police Department, the Sheriff's Department, who cut down on some of the trafficking of vehicles that don't belong on a residential street. Now, I understood during construction, but construction's been over for quite a while. And I've addressed this issue with everybody who would listen. But for some reason, it has cut back through the Goffstown Police Department and the Sheriff's Department, which is I'm very thankful for. Because on our street we have regular residents, we have people who come in, do walkabouts, we have handicapped people and wheelchairs and so on. But I still see, like today, 2 large dump 18-wheelers flying down the street. And a lot of people are still using that as a shortcut. Plus, the speed limit, it's not conducive for that type of street. It's not conducive for the fire department, you know?
So I hear what you're saying. Now, have you gone to, Mark, have they been before your committee on this?
No.
No?
No, they have not.
So we have a committee that looks at that, and I would submit that you go to the police department and Is that where they fill out the form, or do we do
The
it?
police department should have a form for that, but we also have them here at town hall. Can
Then we
you-
fill out a form, and they'll actually investigate it, and then what happens is they investigate it, they come up with a recommendation or recommendations, because you have a couple of things you've brought up, and then they'll bring it to this board will discuss it, and you'll have an opportunity to speak again, and we'll go from there. But the first step is to fill out the form, get before that committee, plead your case, they'll look at it, they'll investigate it, and then they'll bring it to us. That's the procedure for getting what you want done.
Well, I went to the police department.
Okay, but
And-
did they give you a form to fill out?
No, and they told me they would investigate it. And while they're in the process of investigating it, they let their people know, as well as the sheriff's department know, that this was a problem and a concern. And between the sheriff's department, which I'd like to give a great thanks, and the police department a great thanks, okay? They cut down on some of the traffic.
So in
Okay.
order for you to get what you want to get done, first thing to do is to fill out that form. So come into town hall tomorrow, town clerk's office, or?
Catherine,
Catherine's
the administration.
The administration
Maybe-
office.
Maybe Danielle can run up now and get a highway safety form.
And you can get that process started. But we just don't make that decision here.
Oh, I didn't expect you to make a
Okay,
decision
so we'll
tonight.
get you the form, the proper form, and get the investigation started. And then, like I said, they'll bring it to us, and then we can make a decision, hopefully. We can help you out. How's
Yeah.
that? And
Because
she's
all
gonna
I-
have to get the paper.
All I wanted to do was to replace the signs that were already on.
I understand that, but what we're gonna do is have them investigate what's missing and what isn't. That's not, DPW just can't go and throw up a sign unless they get the approval and the recommendations. Things change, like you said.
Yeah,
So
We appreciate you coming in.
there's two different issues. One's a maintenance issue. If there's signs that have come down and they haven't gone back up, that's different. That's a maintenance issue. We can ask DPW to look into it and replace the signs. The other is if you want additional signs or something else, it's the Highway Safety Committee,
yeah.
which is where you would go to.
Well, I wasn't asking for extra signs or anything, just replacements. And I've gone to
Okay.
everybody I could think of.
And I think
From-
what we, I'm
From a
sorry.
regular
Go ahead, go
laborer
ahead.
all the way up to a director, and nothing happened since the construction was finished on Main Street.
And I think what we
Fair
can do here
enough.
at Town Hall is look at the history of ordinances, especially with no parking on Church Street. There may have been a change at one time, but we can have Catherine do some research on that
Okay,
as well.
thank you. All right, sir, well, thank you for coming in, and we'll be investigated and getting back to you. How's that?
Okay,
All
and
right.
I just thought it was unique for this town when I moved in about 40 years ago. There were three areas. One was the school zone, just off the high school, where you transition from 40 to 30. Because if you leave Goffstown, there's a sign that says slow, school zone, but no crosswalk sign. When you come in, just recently, they put up a sign that has nothing to do with the school zone, but it has something to do with the crosswalk.
All right, well, we'll take a look at that. Thanks for coming in. He has the form there.
So that's the form you need to fill out and my contact information.
Okay,
Okay?
All right, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Because I don't expect everything to get done at once, because I work with budgets and all this other stuff.
All right, thank you. Next up is the tax rate setting, Derek.
Did you have any other public comment?
No, is there anybody else here for public comment? I don't see anybody.
So yes, I'd ask the finance director to join us for the discussion on the tax rate setting. This is at tab 4G of your packet. So Danielle's been working with the Department of Revenue Administration, and we are prepared to set the tax rate for this fall. The county, local education, and state education portions are shown on your second page, and those are set. What you have control over at this point is the municipal portion.
The 824, which was last year's number.
Last year was $8.24, and then if you flip to a third, Danielle's provided you with 5 different options, as well as we could explore some other options, but our preference would be to have you set the tax rate this evening. so that we can generate the tax warrant for approval on your meeting next Monday, so that we can send out tax bills timely. We can go through each different option if you'd like, or whatever your preference may be.
What's our fund balance percentage? That's
So you'll see on the second attachment, the chart, option one, if you choose to use no fund balance, your retained fund balance amount will be approximately $8.6 million, which would be about 16.6. That would be above the DRA recommended level. And just a reminder, Danielle did put the note at the bottom, about $1.5 million of our fund balance is uncollected. That might be in tax liens or other receivables that are outstanding. So that's 1.5 of that fund balance is outstanding. So that is counted in there. But yeah, so you have your percentages there that show you kind of where everything would fall, depending on what decision you made.
What does the DRA recommend?
DRA has a
They have I think
a
it's
high and a low that they recommend.
5%, between 5% and 15%. The board has a fund balance policy currently. It's a little bit old. The policy hasn't been updated in a few years. Danielle and I are starting to look at that. Your goal is 8%, but again, I think that was set before our current fund balance levels, and we knew exactly what was outstanding in receivables and tax liens, outstanding property tax.
The DRA maximum is 17%.
Okay.
So 5% to 17%.
And if you went with option 5, what would that percentage, what would you have for a percentage then? The 13.7, is that what that says?
Yes.
That'd be
Yeah, that's correct.
13.7. That'd be a reduction of, so you do have in that final column, that would be a reduction down from last year as well as the total tax rate.
So when you're putting down completely level total tax rate, you're including the decrease in school and county?
Yes. Yep. That's to
That-
make the rate the same as it was on last year's mill rate.
Yeah, the school did go down considerably, the local education portion. The state education went up slightly, and county was up as well.
Well, if I had my druthers, I'd go with option 4.
You don't like option 5?
Well,
I was gonna go for 5, but I see your point. 4 is to me is acceptable. It's acceptable for me.
I'm just thinking that, I'm thinking about what we might use here in the next few weeks.
Yeah, you do have quite a few one-time capital projects that are in the CIP matrix, that are in the proposed budget at this time, that might be eligible for use of fund balance. When we put the budget together, we did not assume fund balance for the fire apparatus capital reserve fund,
Which we normally have.
which you
Yeah.
normally have, but we as staff did not assume that, so that's $250,000 right there. Plus, like I said, there are quite a few one-time projects that are not likely to reoccur in the budget. The other problem, I guess, that I would advise is option 5 does create a little bit of that downswing. So those property owners that escrow, they might see a reduction, but then if you jump back up to normal levels, they've got to make up that difference a year from now.
Yeah, we've been on
Yep.
that.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we saw that
No,
a few years ago.
All right, I agree. Do we have any idea when we would receive or that 1.5 million that's owed to the town, when that would start to drop down?
So that is a rolling number. Every year, the auditors take a snapshot of it as of the end of the year.
Okay.
I can tell you that last year it was about 1.4, so it tends to be, we collect some, but then we have more outstanding.
Okay.
So we've been averaging about 1.5.
I didn't know how much that number would change, and I heard it, so, yeah, I'm all set.
So,
Call us, go
a
ahead.
question, why did we select options 4 and 5? I mean, that's a pretty big difference, that's 40%. Did we look at anything in between? Or was there a reason for those two, Danielle?
So the direction that I gave Danielle was, let's assume no use of fund balance, so you have that as option one.
Yeah, I get that.
The option two was a level municipal rate on the town side from last year, so not changing the town side.
Get that too, yeah.
Option three, that $8.31, that was what was advertised in the voter's guide if all recommended warrant articles were approved. Option four was kind of that, that level tax rate of the total tax rate to keep it exactly the same, even though it kind of shifted a little bit more, goes to county, a little bit more to state education. And then the final one, during budget discussions last year, the board voted to set kind of a benchmark of $1.4 million from. So I think we kind of picked those five as those were all reasonable. Danielle has her laptop here, and we can provide you some estimates on what changes would be, because she can get into the DRA portal. The one thing that will fluctuate a little bit is the exact amount of overlay that we set aside for tax abatements. But with one pretty big case out there, we would recommend around $50,000 in overlay.
So the fund balance right now is at, where did it go? Oh, 1.5 million? No, no, that's what's
8.6.
owed. That's what's owed.
Yeah, option
8.6.
one, 8.6 is our current.
Okay, so we'd be talking about using $400,000 of 8.6.
No, we're using $1 million.
I'm sorry, yeah.
In option
Yeah.
four, you'd
That's
be
a
using $1 million.
$400,000 difference between those
Yeah.
two. 40% difference.
But it makes a big swing on that tax rate and
It
creates
sure
some
does.
volatility.
Yeah.
And then next year, you're gonna be trying to make up for that 24 that you
Yeah.
reduced it.
Yeah.
So if you had a tax increase next year, let's say if it was 6% you needed to do, you'd have a 30-cent tax increase just on that. Where I'm more opt to keep it even. We're living with it now, it just. Jim?
I kind of agree with you. I think of all the options here, I think I'd, keep it as,
You haven't been here before, but when we get into the budget season, when we get into budgets,
Yep.
sometimes we'll use some of that unreserved fund balance to offset, like Derek said, a one-time cost.
I got
So
that,
you
I got
can-
that, so I don't know how much
So-
you need and things, so.
You keep banging on it, I mean, it's,
Well, yeah, well, that's the reason I agree with you, because
Yeah.
if there's some of that stuff, but like you say, I haven't done it before, but that made sense to me.
Chet?
I'm comfortable with 4.
Yeah.
Also comfortable with the 14.6%. If that makes sense, we're doing well.
Mark?
Yep, option 4.
Yep, I'm behind 4 as well.
You are?
I think that's great. I think we
Want
bring
a
that
motion?
forward. I
Why
think
don't
it's
you make,
right.
somebody make a motion?
I'll make a motion that on the municipal rate options, we go with option 4. You want me to read all the numbers across, or?
It would just result in a municipal tax rate of $8.30 for a combined total tax rate of $24.82 per thousand.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Derek.
Any further discussion?
No.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Collis, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes.
Thank you, and like I said, we'll work with the assessor, well, Danielle will complete the process tomorrow. We'll do a news release on that, but then what we'll do is the assessor will create the tax warrant that allows us to actually send out bills, and we'll have that for you next Monday night.
Thank you.
And let's go to our own discussion. You're all set, right?
Correct, we have a public hearing at
It's
6:45.
15 minutes, So
Yep.
let's finish up our part,
Awesome.
okay? Let's go to new business. Do we have any new business to talk about? Anybody got anything they want to bring forward?
The only thing I would say is kudos to the highway department for your work on the side streets off of Mass Road. I saw the grader there today. They were grading and, getting, I think, a hot top tomorrow, maybe, if,
Probably not with the weather, but
Yeah.
hopefully Wednesday if it's dried out a little bit.
yeah. Good job.
Thank you. Pass it along.
Derek, have you got anything new that you need to bring forward?
No, I do not.
All right, if nobody else got anything, let's go to old business, let's go to the action matrix. I think the first one we're still working on, right?
Yes, we've.
Any
did-
updates?
I did reach out to the county administrator at the end of last week, or actually 2 weeks prior, and he was working on getting a land valuation. He hadn't completed that process. He was gonna talk to the county commissioners last Wednesday at their meeting. I haven't gotten an update from him on that, but continuing to have a conversation with the county administrator on where they are.
We have to poke the bear every once in a while to remind you.
Yeah, I might ask for a little bit of assistance with.
Is there a certain parcel chosen that you're working on?
Yes, I can send you that information.
Thank you.
Personnel plan and policies, we're gonna be revisit for a final vote on 11/22.
Yeah, we sent that out to departments this morning so they can be posted on town hall as well as department bulletin boards. And employees will have an opportunity to review that and ask questions if they need to.
I have a question on, somebody asked me this. Are all the insurance plans available to, all the same insurance plans available to everybody? All departments?
I'm gonna have to lean on, I
Lean on
think we have one CBA that has,
Yeah, there's a couple variations. So non-union is the only group that still has a 3-tier plan. That plan has been replaced in all the CBAs. Also, there's a union that has a different high deductible plan than the others because that was negotiated as part of their cash out was based on the lowest cost plan. So they selected a different plan for that calculation. But other than that, most of the plans, the majority of our plans, about 90%, are available to all members.
So, but except for non-union, they're different.
Non-union has all of those same ones, plus they have one additional one.
Okay. So they have all the same options as everybody else except for that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Have you had any feedback yet? No, because you just sent that out today,
I
right?
had one note from one of the department heads and we'll clear up any questions that come
Okay.
through. They were just posted probably about 1 o'clock this afternoon.
When do you want to do something with the Rotary Park?
I'll have to reach out to the president on that, and I'll make that a priority this week to get in touch with them. and
Yeah,
see.
soon. I'm getting a lot of calls on that. Why aren't we moving faster? It seems to be supported by everybody in town. What's taking so long? So people want to know what the next steps are. It sounds like people are ready to throw some money at this thing, so.
I don't think there's a problem. I just think we just need to sit down and talk to them. You know, I really don't. I mean, I've talked to them just off the cuff, you know, and they said, well, you know, whatever, let's talk. So I said, okay.
Well, we gotta schedule a specific meeting and get them to sit down. Let's get them to commit to something. Yeah, okay.
So is somebody gonna, I agree with you, is somebody gonna do that, or are we just gonna?
Derek
leave it
just
to
said he was
sit?
gonna do it.
You're gonna,
Yep,
you're
I'll
gonna
reach
do
out to the
that?
president.
Okay.
PD card 9's the only thing we got out.
Currently, yes.
And grants, aren't we talking about one tonight?
Yeah, I took that one off because tonight will be, you'll either vote to accept or, I guess,
Okay.
for some reason you get public comment and you choose not to accept. But typically, we keep it on here until the board votes to accept.
Okay. Anybody got anything else? Anything to be added? Well, we've got pretty much all of our business done so far. We have a non-public, is that gonna be more than 10 minutes?
Could perhaps do one of them real quick if you want.
Yeah, but we have to, don't we have to shift things around?
Yeah, we would have to shift into the other.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
come back
okay.
here.
Chew up the
So
10
we'll
minutes.
take, we're gonna call, we have a public hearing at 6:45, so we'll take a 10-minute recess. Thank you. Is everybody here?
Yes, yep.
We have a required public meeting, public hearing tonight to vote and accept and expend 2021/2022 Moose License Plan Conservation.
Sorry.
What?
Plate.
Moose license plate, that's a typo.
Oh, plate, I'm sorry. Yeah, Moose License Plate. I don't have to change it, we already just said it. Conservation Grant, a year 2021-2022 Moose License Plate Conservation Grant in the amount of $8,646 to scan and conserve the town tax maps. In 2021, the assessor submitted a grant application to scan and conserve the town's tax maps. The town was successful in this grant application, and the work will begin shortly after the signature by the governor and council. Financial impact of this is it's a 100% grant with no cost to the town. The state of New Hampshire has specific language required for accepting this Moose License Plate Conservation Grant. And I think Hollis was going to make the motion.
Do you want to hold the public hearing? Open the
Oh, yeah,
public
we'll
hearing?
open the public hearing, I'm sorry. Is there anybody here to speak to this? Tammy's going. All right, we'll close the public hearing. Go ahead, Hollis.
I'll make a motion to accept and expend the unanticipated funds under New Hampshire RSA 31:95-B in the amount of $8,646 made available through a Moose License Plate Conservation Grant for the scanning and conservation of the town's tax maps. Do I need to read the resolution as well?
I would
All
appreciate
right,
that. Thank you.
resolve that Goffstown shall enter into a contract with the state of New Hampshire, acting by and through the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources, providing for the performance by Goffstown of certain services as documented within the foregoing grant application, and that the official listed, the Select Board Chairman Peter Georgiantis, on behalf of Goffstown, is authorized and directed to enter into the said grant agreement with the state of New Hampshire, and that they are to take any and all such actions that may be deemed necessary, desirable, or appropriate in order to execute, seal, acknowledge, and deliver any and all documents, agreements, and other instruments on behalf of this municipality in order to accomplish the same.
Second, I did the easy part.
I'm gonna make you read it over again. Is there any comments?
And I'll just make note that this will scan and conserve 52 years of tax maps from 1969 to 2020, 2,576 sheets. So they will, instead of being forced to flip through them, they'll be conserved and they'll be able to pull them up on the computer whenever they need to do any research.
How's that happen?
They, Scott has worked with a company in the past. We did the original tax maps, which were 1968 last year, I believe, with budgeted funds. And so they come in and they'll take a few years at a time. They do any repairs that need to be and scan it, and then they put it in special boxes that are acid-free, and we can store them down in our vault.
So they'll all be cataloged, and then they can be queried by like date or lot
Exactly.
or whatever?
Yep.
Cool.
They-
That's huge.
Yep, and then it's a lot easier than
Yeah.
actually pulling them out on the counter.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
yep.
Okay, motion was made by Costa, was seconded by Chet. Any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes. You want to take another 10-minute recess, or you want to go into?
Yeah, let's roll.
Well, we don't have all the budget committee members were told a 7 p.m. start, so I would say it'd be appropriate to recess
We'll
till
recess
7 p.m.
Till 7 p.m.
It's affordable, all these recesses.
I know, right?
Derek a second to come back. Again, this is a continuation of the Goffstown Select Board meeting on 10/25, and this is a joint meeting and budget presentation with the Budget Committee. And first up on our schedule tonight would be the library.
Peter, would you just mind if I do a roll call?
Sure.
Thank you. Just 1 second before the library starts. I'm Joe Alexander, Chairman of the Budget Committee. I'm just doing a roll call for the record. So I'm here. Stacy Belmore.
Present.
Present. Spencer Dias is excused. Lauren Dukas.
Here.
Present. Greg Flegel's excused. Bill Cordis.
Present.
Present. Dennis Lynch. Here. Present. Richard Manzo. Not here. Okay. Fred Platt, not here. Evelyn Redmond.
Here.
Present. Melanie Renfrew Hebert.
Present.
Present. Skylar Sun, not here. Richard Fletcher.
Yeah.
Present. Jared Talbot's excused. He's at another meeting. And Mark LeMay.
Here, Select Board Rep.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right.
Good evening. I have Amy Huntsman, Chair of the Library Board of Trustees, and I'm Diane Hathaway, your Library Director. Amy's going to start.
Yep. So.
Yep, we're on tab 7.
Yes, tabs. We moved up one since last year. So.
All right, good evening. As Diane said, I'm Amy Huntsman, the Chair of the Library Board of Trustees. As you guys would probably know, the Library Board and the staff are still managing the effects of COVID and how that relates to the library. The library is and has been fully open to the public since July. The only exception to that being that we're not allowing children to play in the children's room. You can come and check out things and hang out a little bit, but no little toddlers hanging out playing with the toys. We are requiring that masks be worn inside the building in an effort to ensure that the library remains open to everyone that is in need of our services, as there's no way to maintain social distance inside the library building. We are still offering parking lot pickup to anybody who wants that option. And you can use that to pick out books or materials. And our online services like ebooks, language learning, and audiobooks are still available 24/7 online from your home with your library card. At our most recent meeting, the library trustees voted to open the library for regular Saturday hours in July and August. And if you're familiar with our hours, we're traditionally have been closed in the summer hours, closed on Saturdays in July and August, so we're going to be open year-round on Saturdays now. The trustees have been working on accomplishing tasks associated with the $95,000 warrant article that was approved in March. Land survey work and geotechnical studies have been completed, and the trustees are working with a fundraising consultant to explore the potential of a capital campaign to raise funds and offset costs for the proposed library expansion. We're also working with a construction manager to develop the most accurate budget estimate for the project. The number in the CIP matrix is an architect's estimate, and we are working to ensure that we have accurate numbers and information before working to move towards a vote for the town on the library expansion project. For more information on the expansion project or to view the plans, you can check out the building addition section on our website. That's goffstownlibrary.com. And now I'll turn it over to Diane Hathaway, the library director, and she'll take you through the budget.
I'll be looking at the purple handout that you all have, and I'm not going to go through every line, but I'll just give you the highlights of it. The 2022 budget request as approved by the Library Board of Trustees is $779,739. This is an increase of 3.61% or $27,143. So the first lines, that just to point out the wage lines, full-time and part-time, there are no full-time staff hours that have been added to this. So it's the same number of staffing hours. Step increases are always based on performance at the library, and we add a 3% market adjustment. Same for the regular wages for part-time, except that there's a decrease in 10 part-time staff hours. So we decreased that. Those are also based on performance, any step increases, and then that 3% market adjustment again. Otherwise, there aren't any other changes there. The other two lines I just want to address are the ones with the most change in our budget. And the first one is on page 3. It's line 53460, facility maintenance. That line has been increased by $3,958, so that's a big jump for us. Most of that is increased costs for just some of the maintenance on the building. And then $1,663 of that increase is for a new cleaning contract for the company that cleans the library building. And then the next line that has the most changed is on the last page. So that's line 69200, electronic subscriptions and contracts. And that has an increase of $2,282. So that also is a lot of money. Most of that is for the last item on that list, which is Reed Squared or Bean Stack. The state library had paid for Reed Squared for 2 summers, and they paid for it by CARES Act money. At this point, then that payment comes down to us. If we want it, we have to pay for it. So we've added that to the budget, and this is a conservative number. Already I'm seeing end of the year invoices that are a lot greater than I paid last year, so that's a little nerve-wracking. So if you have questions about any other line, I'll be really happy to address those with you, but so most of the changes are minor, either increase or decrease.
Anybody? We have out back, everyone? You need to come up, we need to find a spot there for, can we get a chair onto this mic over here?
Yeah, well, would you like this one?
Or this chair over here?
Just bring it over here, everybody else is going to do it.
Just want to make sure there's a mic.
Thank you. Evelyn Redmond, Budget Committee. Diane, can you tell us a little bit more about that Reed Squared Bean Stack program and what it entails?
Yeah, it's an online program so that kids don't have to come into the library to be part of the reading program. We call our summer program the Summer Experience, but there's still a lot of tallying and recording, and so now this gives them the ability to do it online. And we know that there's a lot of kids who can't come to the library often in the summer. Their parents work. This gives them the ability to be participants without coming to the library.
And it works for adults too.
Yes, it's all ages at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thanks for the question.
Anybody else from the Budget Committee? Joe?
Thank you. So my question is, I haven't had the opportunity to look in the CIP matrix. What was the architect figure for the library expansion coming up?
It's about $5.9 million. That's what the architect's estimate is.
And that's
in the
coming through
CIP.
for next year?
It's not necessarily, it's not coming through for 2022, no.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Cleaning contract. What's that total?
It should be in there. If not, I will get it for you.
You have a total maintenance, facility maintenance.
Yeah, but I
total,
don't break it out.
You don't break it out.
I'll have to send that to you.
Okay, and did that go out to bid?
It did go out to bid. We did not get the number of bids we anticipated. We had 2 bidders.
Okay.
So, but I will send that to you.
Anybody else? That was pretty easy. We're letting you guys off easy.
I know, I'm lingering here just in case, you know?
If anybody has any questions, Diane put her on the back, the last page over here, she put her email address so you can reach out to her if they have a question.
Please do.
Most people, when they hear pause, they jump up and go.
Get out of here. I thought you'd be out the door by now.
You know me too well.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Rick? Again, Rick, thanks for coming. I know it's tough. You lost your mom this week. Our condolences.
Thank you very much. I'll sit over here so it looks both ways, so you're not looking at my back. I don't have any fancy handouts for you. You got page purple 6, that's the budget. But what I'd like to do is, I'd like to start out just kind of talking about our department. Our department is made up of 3 full-time people. Myself as the director, we have a grounds supervisor, and we have a program supervisor. Programmatically, we were pretty busy all winter long, pretty busy all the time, I should say, but our biggest program time is with our basketball program, our lacrosse program, and our summer camp program. Those are 3 very large programs. And in the fall, we have some instructional programs that go on a regular basis. An area that I think I've been talking about for 11 years is our maintenance, our ground maintenance. I really don't think a soul understands what we do. We take care of every single athletic field in this community. That's 26 total fields. We take care of every single school, all their property. That's the high school, Mountain View, those are the 2 biggest properties. Glen Lake Kindergarten is a huge property, that's an hour and a half alone. Maple Ave and Bartlett, that's like a little weed whack and you're done. And then all the town property. Okay, we have the library we take care of. We take care of the 2 fire stations, one at Bernardville, the one at Terrell Hill. Then we take care of the town common. Town common is a shared entity, thank God. It's really between DPW and Parks and Rec that really kind of take care of that area. But we line fields for every single athletic contest. Baseball, softball, we're the ones doing all that. It takes an awful lot of man hours and it takes a lot of time. So what I'm getting and alluding to is this year it's time that we actually take a look at our staffing structure, and we need to add a full-time grounds maintenance individual. And that's where the lion's share of what you see in an increase in this budget really is. I could go line by line if you want, but that's the lion's share right there. So increasing a full-time 40-hour-a-week individual 12 months out of the year. And that's where that is going to come from. Other areas which are out of our control, I mean, a bag of seed, a 50-pound bag of seed, okay, has gone from $90 to $150. Little things like that. Fertilizer, bags of fertilizer, everything is going up. So you'll see some increases in our park operation area. But that's pretty much the lion's share of what we're doing. Questions?
Joe?
I do have some, actually.
I thought you did.
So I'm looking at line contracted services.
Yes.
I'm just seeing that it's not being, like, less than half of it's being spent.
So,
So that's line, for the record, that's line 45070.
so what we're also experiencing is COVID. So we're still semi-COVID here. So you figure semi-COVID. When we went into this year's budget, we didn't run our basketball program. We couldn't run it. We didn't run our men's league. We didn't run our high school league. So that's where you see you're not going to spend that whole thing. Same thing in your program line. We're not going to spend all that because we couldn't. We just had no way to spend it because of COVID. So
When you say contracted service, those are your
contract
umpires?
contract services for us is basically all our scorekeepers, referees, a couple like summer programs. We run a golf program, paid contract there. We didn't run that, couldn't run that. So that's pretty much what contract service is for us.
And do you have plans picking those up?
Oh,
this year?
absolutely. Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we're actually got our men's league going now.
Love it.
Full, 6 teams. They're all excited. So I think I hope it comes back. It will come back, but.
Good.
Okay, I got one at each end. We'll go on the left side first. Come up to the front to the mic. Make sure you state your name.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Lauren Dukas, Budget Committee. Line 53430, equipment maintenance supplies. Your 2020 budget was 3659. The actuals were over 23,000. Is that some of the aforementioned fertilizer and, I mean, well, those are.
No, that was
2020s.
year end 2020.
Yep.
So that was also COVID.
Yeah.
So what we ended up doing in that line there is we actually bought a seeder, a slit seedering machine, and that's what really pushed that over the edge. Because we were, I think we probably didn't spend $90,000 because of COVID, so it gave us the advantage in time to look at a piece of machinery where we can get ourselves lined up with.
Why wasn't
Great.
that in equipment?
What's that?
Why is it in maintenance supplies and
You
not?
guys
That's
are
the
gonna
line.
come up and talk to them on the
That's
mic
the
if
line
you're gonna
it's
ask
in.
questions.
That's the line, all that stuff's been in for my 11 years here. Don't know what to tell you.
Okay, so it was the one-time expenditure of using
Yes.
some funds that didn't get used up and it's not gonna be repeated. Great, thank you.
And then,
And you can see where it's way down.
Right, I
for-
saw it.
So now we've kind of adjusted back down.
I was just curious where it.
Sure.
Thank you. Stacy Belmore, Budget Committee. What is the equipment rental in the next line down? The
That is new.
$10,000.
Yes, excellent. That's a good question. That is new. What we're doing right now is the school is, that $10,000, there's $10,000 for rental. What it is it's an automated painting machine, so it paints the lines on the field. It's a $10,000 annual contract. $8,000 is the actual contract, and then there's paint involved for $2,000. So what is going on is the school is going to actually pay for that. So there's a revenue offset for 2022 of $10,000 that, I don't know where, it appears in offsetting revenue. It will not appear here, but there's $10,000 that'll be coming from that. Right now, 2021, we actually have the unit, and we're using it at this very moment. And what we're doing is $3,000 will be out of our budget in 2021, and the school is paying $7,000.
What did we do prior to this?
Excuse me?
What did we do prior to this? Do we pay our own lines?
Manuel. Pulling strings.
this piece of equipment works off GPS, so you don't have to.
Oh, that's fun.
I've seen.
Have you seen it?
Thank you.
I was with Scott Gross.
Oh, yeah.
He was talking about it and showed us.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's Felix. The name of it is
Anybody else
Felix.
got any questions? Jim?
Just one. Your parks operation line went up $6,000. What's included in parks operation?
Park operation is everything from porta potties to fertilizer to seed to miscellaneous pieces, parts for fixing a pavilion, trash bags, all kinds of stuff like that.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else? Your employee, I have a question for your employee.
Yes.
Your new employee, you budgeted about 36,000?
I think it's a grade 3, labor grade 3 start. Yes, something, no, it's more than that. Danielle?
Well,
No, you know what this is,
It-
Peter?
you got-
This is gonna be from April,
oh, so it's not the complete year?
yes.
Okay. So how
Yes,
much
yes.
are you budgeting? You don't know what?
Whatever the labor grade 3 was, I really, off the top of my head, I apologize, I don't have it in my head, the dollar amount.
You would just double that amount, right?
No.
No, it's
It'd be
April.
it'd be
April, okay.
a quarter.
Okay.
'Cause
What he's saying
basically-
is that the budget's gonna pass in March, in April, he'll be eligible to hire that employee. Say the
Yes.
budget didn't pass,
Right.
well, then he wouldn't have those funds.
Right.
Right, and if we don't, that part-time salary line would probably be around $110,000, just so you know.
Anybody else?
So we are saving, I should mention that's huge. I just thought of that. Yeah, so I mean, if we were not to go with a full-time person, which I highly recommend we do, that part-time wage line would go up to about 110,000.
But you're only reducing your current by 6,000.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, you have you got lifeguards that fees are going up, you got playground people that are going up, you got, you know, all those other areas that are factoring into that increase too, Pete.
Anybody else? Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Anybody who needs to call Rick, just give him a holler.
Give me a holler. 1-800.
Fire department.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Brian Allard. I get the pleasure of serving as your fire chief. Tab 4. And there should all be a handout inside your packets. So on the first page, just wanted to remind the group just kind of the different services that the fire department does offer. We have fire suppression, EMS, special operations like hazmat and/or swift water. We do some fire prevention and community outreach. And then our emergency management side is also involves our CERT team here within the town. It falls under the fire department. We do have annual calls, over 2,400 calls annually this year, which I'll talk about in a minute. We're one of 2 fire departments in the state to receive a federal STAFER grant. We've certainly gone out and had to change the way we recruit employees now with the job market the way it is. We get pretty aggressive with that. And all the while, many of our employees are going out and seeking additional certifications to better serve the community. You'll see within the budget some of the impacts. You've heard some of the other departments talk about fuel impacts. We have heat plant matrix adjustments that will be forthcoming this year, and fire hydrants is always a huge part of our budget. But we do look for opportunities to save the town money, and you'll see some grants and/or revenues that have come in, and that all those various ones there between the SABRE grants and the AFG grants and permitting, somewhere about $1.6 million. So we do try to search for those opportunities as they come about to us. Just over the next page, you'll see a pie chart. Kind of gives a breakdown of the overall budget. Most of the budget, I don't have any control over it. It's all personnel cost. Like I said, the fire hydrants. You'll see that operating cost, which is about 7%. That includes heating the building, electricity. There's a very small percentage of the operating budget that can actually control and/or make adjustments from. On the next page, I've listed out some of the increases and decreases. You see the first one, which is the wage line, and that talks through some of the 4 SAFER positions that are coming on board. There's some facility repairs. We're trying to use the same key fob throughout the community, so we're working with our IT department to get all of our door locks upgraded. You see the fuel cost impacts. We have had some decreases to the part-time wages because we did bring on some full-time people. Our overtime is going to go down for next year, along with some of that longevity pay and our legal expenses. So our overall increase, if you look at this, is $288,000 from 21 to 22. However, if you take into account the offsetting revenue that will come in from the federal government, which is the $421,000, which you have a net reduction in our budget. We'll get into the EMS budget, kind of that pie chart, same type of information in there. We have a lot of personnel costs in there, and it's a little more equipment heavy, things like oxygen masks and various supplies that we use throughout an emergency call. This budget, again, is funded through the EMS fund itself. So as we take in revenues from transporting patients, that helps offset, helps support this budget. Again, fuel has certainly been an impact to us, as well as running the ambulances. The wages So some of those wages have decreases because we shift those over to the full-time, which we did with the board earlier this year. Our service fees, that's for our third-party billing company. We're really starting to get a better feel of some historical information with this new company that we started dealing with. So those are actually going to go down, the fees to them. And then just physicals, where we send our employees out to get annual physicals. That line item's gone down. So that overall budget has decreased as well. And on the next page, we talk about the emergency management. Not a whole lot in here this year. The operating budget's actually going down this year. Last year we had a grant that we did our emergency operations plan in, so that's not for another 5 years. So this whole budget has decreased 41%. So just a summary of those three things. Sorry, I have an error there. It's actually 5% on the first one. And if you flip to the next page, talk about some of the capital items. The first one is there's some repairs that needs to get done to the Mass Road Station. CIP actually moved $50,000 into that, and probably very good timing. We had a forensic structural engineer look at the fire department on Mass Road recently. There's two things going on. Part of the front of the building is moving away from the second floor, and two, the floor of the apparatus bay actually has a big dip in it, and the whole concrete slab moves. So that is going out for an RFP, which I'll come to the board here in the near future. That'll probably be done in the spring next year. We have an apparatus to replace, which comes out, those funds come out of the apparatus reserve fund. We have a spill trailer that carries a bunch of equipment in it. If we have to go to hazardous material spill, the roof and floor are actually rotted through the current one, so that desperately needs to get replaced. And then finally, we have cardiac monitors that are coming to the end of their life. And again, that comes out of the EMS fund, and we're actually going to be working with one of our local hospitals to look at grant opportunities to replace those for us. And the next page is the warrant article that we typically put on for the capital reserve fund. We had adjusted this down last year to $250,000, so we'll be asking for that same money in that fund to be put into that fund next year. Next page is questions, and I know there'll be some.
Thanks, Chief. So I just want to circle back on the fire budget. The overtime pay, down 11,000.
Yes.
I assume that's because of the SAFER grant. We took on additional personnel, so there's not as much overtime because we had additional personnel.
Exactly.
So make sure I got this clear. Okay.
You are correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Joe?
Yeah, I have a few. Thank you. Thank you, Chief. So, annual calls for service, 2,400 calls. How many of those were for fires, and how many of those were for not fires?
Just off the top of my head, it's something like an 80-20 split.
So
80%
20% for
EMS,
fires?
20% fire.
Okay. Thank you. Second question is, earlier this year, I believe it was the June 28th meeting, you came to the select board to ask for 4 new positions through a grant, right? Through a SAFER grant, or just 4 emergency positions? Can you just explain why you did that, and why you circumvented the traditional budget process, and what the emergency was for?
Sure. And I guess I'd go on record saying, didn't circumvent the system. I came before the board, that was their budget at that time, and if you go back and look at the notes, it was really clear that I said that I would absolutely come before the budget committee, but the board made that decision that night to go ahead and vote and allow us to do that. So why did we need the positions right away? In this particular job working climate, we don't have part-time people, so it's either shut down a fire station or shift the funds into full-time so I can hire people to keep stations open.
Okay. And then the SAFER grant, there's a 2018 SAFER and a 2020 SAFER. Those are about 300,000 each, 270 each, right?
Job about
the
total
labor cost. Yeah. I believe it's like 270,000 or something, if I remember.
Right. I'm just going to get the
exact
exact
numbers. Great, thank you.
Are you looking for the total cost of the 8 positions?
I'm
Or the
wondering
offsetting
what the,
revenue?
well, I'm wondering what the cost is for the town to, that the town's going to have to pick up after the grant runs out. That cost. So 2018, it looks like that's ending this year, right? So it'd be,
It's reducing down this year, yes. Today, this is the last year with the offsetting revenue. So the offsetting revenue from the 2018 is a 35% in this 2022 year.
okay, so what, do you have that amount?
Yeah.
What the town, the 65?
What the cost is for those 4 positions.
And while you're looking that up, wasn't that grant like the first year it was 100% and then it went
Goes
It
down?
was 75, 75, 35.
Right.
The new one is 100%.
For
the
4
three-
years?
Yeah.
3 years.
For 3 years?
Yep.
But the 2 that are expiring, or the one that's expiring and the one that's going to expire are the step-down ones?
Correct.
Right.
So that's right.
Yeah, so the total cost of the first for the 2018 safer positions, looking at the 22 year, we don't have next year's numbers, of course, for 2023 and beyond. But that cost for 22 is $283,000. And the offsetting revenue is just over $99,000 because it's only 35%. So this year, the town is seeing an impact of $184,000.
And that's from the 2018
Yes.
SAFER grant?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And is there any plan, do you plan on removing these positions like when the grant runs out, or do you plan on keeping these
I
positions?
do not plan on removing the positions.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other budget committee members got questions? I just went through a $3 million budget pretty quick, so. Come on up front.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Lauren Dukas, Budget Committee. Thank you, Chief.
Yeah, yeah.
So are these new positions that you're looking to bring on with the newest SAFER grant, is this to augment our current staff, or are you looking to try to open up any of the fire departments? Like, where is the loss of people? Where is that going to be? How's that going to restaff your departments?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So I've always, from the very beginning when we had full-time and part-time blend, 6 was the number to keep the Pinardville station and the Church Street station open, so it's 6 people in need. With the troubles of getting part-time people and an overtime budget that's exceeding, these new 4 SAFER positions will get us to the 6 full-time people per staff. And as our full-time members take vacation time, sick time, that will augment our part-time people. Will still be here helping to fill those shifts. So that helps with that overtime budget that also asked about earlier, reason why the reduction there. So.
Okay, so right now, are the 2 main stations that you have are understaffed for full-time?
For full-time right now, so some days we have no choice but to run out of one station. And other days when people are not taking vacations and we have part-time people, then we can open both. This will help keep both those stations open.
And can I ask? Oh.
Go ahead. It's a little, I want to make sure, do not confuse. We already have the SAFER grant. Those people have already, he's already searching for those. So that's already been done. That's not something he's asking for.
Right, I'm sorry, I know that there was I thought that we were talking about 4 more people, hence the 8
No,
that
no,
we
that's,
were.
no, we
No.
have, those are been approved already, and he's searching for those 4 people right now. So it's what you're seeing here is
Thank you.
continuation of this year's budget, more or less,
Okay,
of personnel anyway.
thank you for the clarification, Chair, I'm sorry.
Thanks.
Evelyn?
Evelyn Redmond, Budget Committee. So let's just clarify, we're also in contract negotiations for this year?
Correct.
For upcoming, and so you don't have any numbers for next year because we don't know what
That
The
would be a separate-
negotiations are going
Yeah,
to.
that would be a separate warrant article.
So right now, we're already seeing the impact of 184,000 that the taxpayers are taking on, over and above what the SAFER grant was paying.
That's the 2018 SAFER.
Right.
Yes, the
Right.
reduced
And
from
then-
75 to 35.
And then we don't have any idea in the next 3 years what's going to happen after the 3 years of 100% SAFER grant runs out.
I guess I don't understand the question.
Well, we don't know what kind of a tax impact we're going to see with 4 new full-time firefighters under this SAFER grant when the federal money runs out to pay for them.
I think Danielle's gonna give you a quick number right now.
So the number, as of right now, with what they're coming, the 4 new positions are being hired at, is $263,906. And that's for the 4 newest SAFER
Right, and
employees,
that's
and
just
then-
for 2022.
That's just for 2022, using the current rates, because they'll be hired this year.
So the contract doesn't take effect until 2023.
The contract could take effect in 2022, but it's going to be a separate warrant article that we'll present each year, like you've seen in past years with other CBAs.
Okay, thank you.
And there's still another SAFER grant in between, too? One, isn't there a 2020?
Nope, this is the 2020.
The numbers that
That I just-
Danielle just gave us.
Okay, so there's the 18 and then the 20?
Correct.
Yes.
There's nothing else in between?
Nothing else.
Okay. We had the 4 and 18 and the 4 and 20.
Hi, Chief. Stacy Belmore, Budget Committee. On line 44300, Employee Development, I think I know the answer, but I'd like to hear it from you. There was a big, wasn't much use of the money the last couple of years. What do you attribute that to?
Yeah, so this year, I had anticipated on that actually being used. The individual that is in a college program got grants, so we didn't have to use the funds this year.
So you're still anticipating you'll have to use the 18,000 though?
That's there now. Some of those funds were reallocated recently. I want to say it was $10,000.
Which line are you on? I'm sorry.
44300, Employee Development.
Yeah, $10,000 was transferred to a DES project that has to happen at Station 18. So that will be consumed.
Of the 2021 budget?
Of the 2021 budget.
So you're budgeting again for 18 for this year?
Talking about
The 2022, sorry.
I'm sorry, yes. I have 2 individuals taking college courses next year.
Okay. The next question is more of what you said earlier about 2 issues you're seeing are the inability to hire, and then I think you mentioned like turnover, people leaving for better. Am I correct in what I heard earlier? Or are you more seeing just inability to hire?
So we've changed our recruitment practices so we can hire quickly, and we've been pretty lucky, we've been fortunate to be able to get those people early on in their careers to attract them as people do look for other opportunities.
Are you seeing less turnover, or are you still seeing turnover to other departments?
We have had a lot of turnover this past year. I hope it's over with.
Is there a repercussion to that for people that leave within a certain amount of time of being hired? Do they owe anything back to the?
It depends on if they've entered any agreements with the town for such as schooling.
Okay.
And that we work with finance to make sure that's taken care of.
Did any of those happen this year? Sorry.
We did.
We had 1.
That had to pay back?
Yes.
And they did.
Thank you.
Joe, did you have one?
I did. So how many positions do we have for firefighters in the town, full-time? And then how many positions total do we have budgeted and how many are filled right now?
So we have, with the latest SAFER, we have 24 line firefighter positions.
Full-time?
Full-time.
Okay.
We have, as of today, we have 19 filled. On the 15th of November, they will all be filled. They're in a process of background checks and physicals and things right now.
Okay, and then how many part-time do we have?
Probably an estimate, 10 active part-time people.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Do you have anything else, Danielle, Chief? No? Parting words?
I was just noting that there's, in addition to the line firefighters, as the chief had just mentioned, there's also the full-time lines that you see include command staff and administrative staff, so there's an additional 5 positions in that total number.
Everybody all set? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I think the police department's up next. I just want to know why when Adam came up last week, everybody pulled out the red pen. I haven't seen him in here yet.
They do it visually. All right, I'll do the same. I'll sit sideways.
Tab 3.
Tab 3. So, thank you all for having me. I'm your police chief, Eric Serino, and I'm here to present my 2022 operating budget and also communications budget. Really quickly, for most of you who don't know, for our budget process, we separate our budget for police operations and also communications. We have 2 different, I guess, multiple divisions, but those are our 2 big budget lines or sections. What you'll see in your first handout, the updated handout, is a pretty big increase from 21 to 22. It's an 11% increase. That includes the 3% non-union that the town put in as far as that increase that Derek had spoken about last week. You'll see that on the operations side, we had a 10% increase, and on the dispatch side, we had an 8% increase. As I walk through this budget, you'll see the majority of this is all of the wages. As most of you know, the police department is heavily personnel driven and very limited operating budget. Really quickly, 28 lines have increased: wages, overtime, furniture, electricity, fuel, accreditation this year went up, and our bulletproof vest line went up. 4 lines decreased: employee development, photo supplies, facility maintenance, and 39 lines were level funded. Quick little graph to kind of show you the trajectory of the last 5 years of where we're heading, where we've been. You'll note that in 2018, it appears the town took our benefits out of our budget, and that's why you see that really drastic drop. I'm not sure why that happened or what the result was, but clearly the next year they put it back in and the budget went back up. The next slide you'll see is the police side of it. In the wages side, this includes your full-time, part-time police, which we only have 1 part-time police officer. Most of you know him as retired Lieutenant Peter Pouliot. He doesn't work like a full, he's a part-timer. He kind of helps out where he can. He comes and goes. He does a lot of the parades and stuff. But you'll see what we're seeing this year was a $403,000 and 522 increase, and that's driven through the CBAs. The CBAs the town voted on last year. This is our first year that we're seeing the entire year of our contract come to fruition in 2021. We really only saw from July to December of our wages. That's why our numbers are so different. So this year we're seeing that full year of the wage increase. Retirement, as you probably heard, I think went up about 33% this year for police, and this was just a huge number. In overtime, we went up about 10% for police side. That is due to the CBA increases. For basically some of our numbers that we've looked at this year up until September, if we were to cover our entire open positions, sick calls, we are roughly around $269,000 in overtime up to, as of September, in patrol, or I'm sorry, all of operations, not including dispatch. So we saw an increase there. Gasoline, as many of you know, it went up significantly this year. We saw it go up 65%. 2021 was $1.37 was what we had paid locked in. 2022, we're locking in at $2.27 a gallon. Propane went up as well. Propane runs our heat in the winter, runs our generators when we're power outages. And the next line you'll see is accreditation. If you don't know, our police department is internationally accredited. We have been for since 1992. This is our year. We are looking to travel to, as we usually do every 3 years. Now we're doing it every 4 years as CALEA has changed their requirements. So this year we're traveling to Chicago. I think that's what's planned. There's another one later in the year somewhere else, to go to the conference for CALEA and receive the award. This is something that we historically do. It's a pretty big accomplishment for our agency. We're one of the top in the United States that receive this award, and it keeps us at the tip of the spear when it comes to a lot of changes in this country. And as you can see, last year was a lot of changes, and we are still continuing to be progressive and by utilizing accreditation. The equipment line, we're going up about $3,600. We're looking to update some of our body cams to just a newer model, some of our tasers. But we've also been researching a drone. Part of that research that we've been looking at is we've seen a couple of calls this year where we've realized that had we had a drone or that technology, we might have been a little bit more successful. The drone we're looking for is nothing that's over the top. There's some out there that are about $25,000 that are really sophisticated. We're looking for I don't want to call it the base model, but it's one of the least expensive ones out there. It's about $6,500. It comes with a heat, a FLIR, also a zoom capability, a speaker for any type of if we need to make announcements or spotlight. One of the calls specifically that we would have really benefited from and potentially could have changed the trajectory of this call was we had an individual who was driving his four-wheeler on the river on the ice and fell in. Our officers went down there with the fire department. We looked and searched and we couldn't see anything. One of our officers stayed a little extra later in the after the call. We couldn't figure out where this person was, if the person fell in. The officer kind of just stuck around and started walking down the river through the woods and noticed this person's helmet floating. And was able to get some resources out there, and unfortunately the person passed. We feel that had we had the ability to throw a drone up at that time, we could have used that FLIR, that thermal, and hopefully could have spotted some type of heat signature in the water within the matter of a couple of minutes. We had a pretty significant call where an officer was involved in a foot pursuit where an individual pulled a gun on our officer, and a pretty serious call happened where the individual ended up taking off. We waited almost an hour for a dog to come. We don't have a dog, patrol dog, to track. We ended up calling Manchester PD, who does have a drone. Took them quite some time to get there, but once they did, they threw their drone up and we were able to kind of look around. Unfortunately, this person got away for that moment. We ended up catching them later on. So the idea here is that we're looking to use some new technology to kind of help us in the evolution of our different calls. Part of that drone is also to certify 4 officers or employees to be FAA certified to fly that drone. If you don't know, you have to be FAA certified. It's an online class that gives you the tools, and then you take the proctored test in the FAA. Moving on, some of our operational decreases was the facility maintenance. We lowered that down. As most of you know, last year we had an increase. We redid our women's locker room, which was a really huge success. Now our women have a place that they can call home that isn't the size of a 9x8 locker room. Telecommunications line, that went down as well as we've transitioned away from copper lines, Comcast lines. We are now strictly fiber. We're starting to see that we're not paying our vendors anymore. We're done using either Comcast Consolidated or Earthlink was an old company that we used. Employee retirement also went down. That might be I think that was an error on that because we had an increase this year from a budget line. What was that, Danielle, the employee retirement, it was the budget was, anyways. We had, when we had the warrant article put in, the increase went into our retirement, and I didn't change that number, so it actually goes up slightly for our non-union, non-police employees, so like Denise, that, and some of our other records clerks. So that's a slight error there.
So that is a decrease, the 15,036?
It is not, Mr. Chair. It's
Okay.
actually, I got it right here.
What page are you on?
Operations continued.
No, I'm talking about on the budget page. Retirement.
Yeah, it went from 26,000 to 33,000 and some change, Mr. Chair. That was the increase.
That would be on 42,300.
42,300, that is correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Did you have a, I'm sorry, did you have a question?
So we gotta go back to that slide, and strike out the, we got that, strike out that 15,036 decrease.
Let me look at the budget report.
So retirement is actually an increase of
So
7,000.
the retirement line,
Approximately
42,300, Mr. Chair, it's going from 26,236 and it's budgeted to 33,442. That is the increase. Are we all set? Can I continue?
I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, we're gonna move into the communications budget. You'll see as well, this is the same year that our dispatchers and clerks received their contract. This is another full year that we're seeing, same as patrol. So their full-time longevity, FICA, Medicare, and retirement all went up. That was an increase of $73,000. Again, their overtime went up due to the CBA increase, about $8,500. Again, what we tracked this year for dispatch, which we have been short-staffed, to this year of September 1st, we would have been at $111,562 if we would have covered every single shift. And furniture went up about $1,000. They were looking to get some new chairs in there, and those chairs in dispatch are about anywhere from $2,000 to $2,500 a piece. Those are chairs that our dispatchers, if you haven't had the pleasure to come in and see the men and women who work in that room, they sit in those chairs for 12 hours a day, 24 hours a day. So it's their office, it's their Cadillac that they need to sit in. And for what they do, it's okay to get a nice chair. Telecommunications line did decrease out of dispatch once again. That line and communications, we've seen that line completely go away now that we're on fiber. Just a quick overview of the operating line. Again, the personnel wages, overtime longevity, the increase from 21 to 22 was a 10% there. The non-wage related operating costs went from, was about a 14% increase. That's the stuff that basically we went over that we're controlling. Again, in patrol, 20 lines increased, 3 lines reduced, and 31 lines stayed level funding. Same spreadsheet for communications. The personnel side of it, for the wages, overtime longevity was about a 9% increase. Non-wage related operating costs went down about 10%, excuse me. That was the telecommunications line that dropped us about $5,400. 9 lines increased, 1 reduced, and 11 stayed level funding. The next slide you'll see, this is a big snapshot of our entire increase this year. For 2022, it's a $527,234, and 92% of that is all wage increases due to the contracts. 8% of it is our operating costs, is the fuel, the propane, the accreditation costs. That's a breakdown of our entire year's budget. Going into CIP, traditionally we request 3 cruisers. I presented this to CIP. As most of you know, cruisers are our main way of getting around the town. It's our offices for the officers. They're typically run, one cruiser is typically run for about 24 hours straight on that one team, and then they take a break for 24 hours, and the next team takes a different cruiser. So we try to alternate different cruisers, and they get a break for about 24 hours. Now, depending on the situation, some of these cruisers are used for details, some of them are used for special events, so they don't get a full 24-hour break, but that's the way we try to keep the mileage and the hours down. This year, we're looking to get another 3 cruisers to continue to recycle our older ones that are getting pretty high maintenance. Traditionally, how we operate is we typically take the 3 new cruisers that we get, we then replace 3 of our aging cruisers, we then take them offline and we put them as admin cars, so our detectives, our staff cars, those are the ones that you typically see that are unmarked driving around. Those usually sit in that capacity for roughly about 3 years, and then from there we send them over to DPW, and Adam takes them for whatever amount of time he can, and then he auctions it off. Typically, we're seeing that as we're missing the 3 is our typical. When we miss some of those years and we do 2 or 1, some of our maintenance costs go up. In 2019 and 2020, we saw one of our cruisers ended up having a transmission failure. We had to spend about $4,000 to upgrade that. So that's kind of traditionally how we operate. And the next item I'd like to talk about is the radio replacement upgrade. I have a radio report that is available. If anybody wants it, I can email it to you. I believe it's about 55 pages long. And essentially what I'd like to kind of give everybody here an overview of where we're at in our town. For those of you who don't know, our portable radios and our mobile radios are our lifelines out on the street. It is what our police department and our fire department uses to communicate with our dispatch center, and whenever we need something, that's our lifelines. Right now, I've basically noticed over the past couple of years that our radios are continuously having problems and they're failing. We've engaged a independent contractor to basically go through our entire radio system, to include our portable radios that we wear on our hips, to our mobile radios that are in our cruisers, all the way to our dispatch center, the radio room behind the dispatch center, to the towers on the mountain, all over the town that are repeaters that bounce the signal back and forth, all the way to our infrastructure. And I'm really sad to say that we're in a pretty tough spot as an emergency services and regional dispatch center. If you don't know, our dispatch center dispatches for Goffstown Police, Fire and EMS, New Boston Police, Fire and EMS, Ware Police, Fire and EMS, and Dumbarton Police. Basically, what we've concluded out of this report is that our radio is in critical failure. It's an outdated equipment. It's not supported by the manufacturer anymore. We are purchasing parts on eBay and Amazon. It's really becoming an officer safety, a firefighter safety, and a community safety issue. It's putting everybody at pretty extreme risk when we are having constant failures in our radios where we can't get out on the radio, we can't talk to somebody, we can't hear what the officer or the firefighters are saying, and that's a pretty significant issue. And if I could just share a few of the comments our consultant has given us. Basically, real quick highlights, it's an ongoing cost to repair. Multiple radio sites out of service is the normal. Funding and the service contracts from the local radio shop and unused they are unsure of what is covered and what is not. So essentially, some of our one of our maintenance vendors doesn't really know some of our equipment. Either it's under warranty or it's not. They're not sure. It's a hodgepodge of equipment that's put together. All critical infrastructure equipment is significantly past end of life by the manufacturer. It's an ongoing cost of ownership. When parts are needed, they're sought by going across the country and then buying them on eBay or Amazon. There is an aging antenna and feed line system. In one radio site that we have, the vendor expert didn't even know what kind of antenna we have and how it's being used. So these are some basic overviews of where it's at, and really it's not a good place to be as your emergency services in this community. So I've talked to the board about this. We've talked to CIP about this. I have this report ready. If anybody wants it, please, I'll email it to you. I want you to read it. I want you to kind of go through. If you have questions, we can talk about it. I didn't print it out to save some of the paper for tonight. But essentially, what we've done to fix this, or at least start looking at the problem, is we've gone through an RFP process this year. It's out right now. We have the vendor, or the consultant is working with other vendors. They did a walkthrough of our site, all of our sites the other day. And really, once we get that, I'm going to present it to the board. And I'm really looking to see what the best approach is here for our community and what the impact is. I know it's going to be a high number, and I understand that. And I understand that's going to affect taxes. We're looking at grants as well. I know that there's a grant that's potentially we can write for in December. It's a very small window, and it's a couple $100,000 that we can look into. But I'm always open to suggestions from community members about approaches of how to pay for it. But essentially, I just want everybody to know this is where we're at, and we can't afford to continue to band-aid this problem. Because if we do, there's going to be a catastrophic failure, and we're not going to be able to recover from it. Again, I'm open to transparency to show everybody where we're at and have a community conversation about what's the best approach to get there. As Mr. Chair had asked me a couple of meetings ago, how I think we should, if we want to put it together, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and kind of spread it out. Selfishly, I think we really need to get it fixed next year and figure out how we're going to pay for it. But I put it in CIP as a 3-year project. My hope is that we can get it done in 1 year for the better of our entire community.
I think the point on that, Chief, is we don't even know a price for sure yet.
Yep.
So we can't make a decision which direction you want to take or we want to
Exactly.
take, because we don't even have the number yet. So.
And we're hoping that the number will come in here in November, and we can present it to the board at that meeting, and then we can really kind of look at the logistics of where we're going to go with that. And the next slide is basically just to show everybody that the police department does have revenues. We don't have a 2022 projected revenue at this point for our dispatch contracts. We're still putting those together and getting with the other agencies to see what their increases are going to be. In operations, we haven't really got a number thus far for 2022. I can't project that, but as of 2021, as of September 2021, we're about $258,000 as revenues. That's kind of what we're getting in, and that's kind of the high-level presentation. If anybody has any questions?
Let's start
concerns?
with the budget committee. Anybody from the budget committee got any questions? Evelyn?
Evelyn Redmond, Budget Committee. So Chief, is the 500,000 that is in CIP all towards the radio purchase, or is there anything else that's included in that dollar amount?
In the 500,000,
Yeah.
that was my placeholder that CIP committee and I talked about, of if our vendor basically said that there was potentially could be anywhere from $500,000 to $2 million. So that's, that $500,000 was a number to placeholder to see where we were going to go with that.
That's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else? Joe?
So you're looking at a 3-year impact of, well, so that 500,000 it's a 3-year plan right now.
Without having a number,
Without a number.
that was the basically a placeholder saying if it did come in at $1.5 million, we could potentially put that out over the course of 3 years.
Right.
After talking about it with the board and our vendor, we're kind of getting to the point now, we're thinking that we really need to get it done next year.
Okay.
Like, that was the projection, was 500,000, we'll put some, whatever we can do with that amount of money, 1 year, the next year, 500,000, put that together, and then just kind of piecemeal, not want to say piecemeal, but, you know, break it up into a 3-year project. But
Okay, and then my other question is regarding the drone. So, I should probably know this, but privacy concerns, what can and can't you do with that drone? Because I can see this, you know.
Oh, I know, yeah.
Like, you know.
So other
getting abused.
agencies already have it, they're already using it. We've looked at other, Manchester's policy, Portsmouth's policy, and essentially where our policy is gonna be is basically mirrors theirs, and it's gonna be any emergency situation, search and rescue, any tactical operation that we're using for officer safety. So again, that officer that was involved in that foot pursuit that had someone pull a gun on him, if we had the ability to pull it out at that moment of the drone, we put it up, and essentially, we could actually use it. We talked about this for traffic reconstruction, when we have pretty big scenes where the traffic crashes are all spread out. We can take better pictures of that. We can get better diagramming. Our intent is never to violate anybody's privacy. Certainly, there's constitutional law that governs that, but really this is geared more towards search and rescue, tactical situations, and potentially with accidents.
Okay, what was the, so it's equipment, what line is that, just for?
That is 53,410.
Okay, I'm on the wrong page. 53,410, and you see that being how much for the drone?
$6,500.
$6,500, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think I'm,
Can
oh,
I
and,
follow up on the drone, chief?
Yes.
So we're talking one drone,
Yes.
and how many personnel
Our
certified to
plan
operate
is
it?
to get 4 operators.
Okay, will that give us 24/7 coverage, somebody on at all time to be able to operate that drone?
I don't know that I can make that commitment to you right now. That, I would hope that we would have
That's what we're
somebody,
shooting for?
somebody to be certified on each shift. Okay.
At least to be able to call somebody in.
Right, that lives in town. or
You
close.
live in town.
I have one more too.
Go ahead, Joe.
So, right now, I believe, is it 33 positions, patrolman positions?
31 sworn police officers.
31 sworn.
Yes.
How many are filled right now?
All of them.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
Evelyn?
Evelyn Dudley, Budget Committee. So, Chief, what status are you at right now with your contracts with the other towns as far as what they pay for dispatch fees?
So currently, we are in a status of, Derek and I have worked together about what the numbers we're looking to present to them. We're writing the contracts up, and we're going to submit them over to the towns to see if they're willing to continue those contracts.
Okay, and do you have any idea of what we're saving them by doing their dispatch for them?
I don't want to get too much contract talk with
Okay.
until we get into, make the
But
proposals
you're currently
for the other
renegotiating
departments.
your contracts with them?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else on the Budget Committee? Anybody from this board? I'm sorry.
question.
Oh, come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Lauren Dukas, Budget Committee. Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
You spoke to having to, I know we're not there yet, this is probably peanuts in comparison to the radio replacement cost, but you spoke to having to buy parts on Amazon. Do you know what line that kind of shows up on an equipment maintenance, on what you may anticipate that could possibly come down in the next 1 to 3 years that we're already spending maybe?
So when we are dealing with the dispatch center and all the radio equipment, we have a line, it's 53,420.
Yeah.
And it's almost the end of our communication.
It's like 17,500 was your
Yep.
2020.
So that line includes our service contract for our maintenance people who come out and help us, and it also includes any kind of problems with our anything with the radios. So whether it's the backups for the power supplies, the consolettes fail. We had an issue last year where we had a total failure over fire department on Blackbrook, which We literally had, we had to take our service offline to give it to the fire department so they could have radio service. And I think that was an $18,000 fix right there, just for that. So that's the line that we utilize most frequently. We also have one in operation that says radio repair, but that's more for like small radio repairs, so like portable radios, antennas, and things of that nature.
Okay, so that's a contract figure, so that figure probably wouldn't go down, because you'll just have a new contract for a newer, fancier radio.
Yes. Well, I don't know what the exact answer is, because right now we pay a monthly fee to our maintenance vendor, and they essentially, that's their on-call fee. They come out and they troubleshoot anytime we need them. Just the other day, we had another failure. They came out on a Friday night at about midnight and realized another card is blown, and we are still waiting weeks to get that card. So they charge us a certain amount of money each month, so when they come out, they don't charge us the service call and all those, mileage just to get there. But then obviously whatever they figure out and they troubleshoot is what we have to end up paying for that.
Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chief.
Go right ahead.
Chief, how are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Peter, I know you don't want to discuss contracts, but the question I think is it going to violate your rule that you just laid out here? As someone that hears often about the radio issues in town and the officer safety with that, I'm just questioning, are these contract negotiations including that thought that these towns may have to help out with this radio issue?
So currently, no. That's kind of where we're at. My understanding is that every other town has their own radio infrastructure. This issue that we have for our radios is Goffstown Police and Goffstown Fire. Even if we do not dispatch for any other town, it is our issue. We need this for us. I know specifically for New Boston, our communication spins through a fiber line out to their radio infrastructure. But I think what happens is, and again, I'm not a radio expert, but when they're transmitting back to us, when it gets back to our in-house, there's some issues there, and that's why we're hearing or not hearing things. Ware PD is currently looking at upgrading their infrastructure as well. Dumbarton uses our frequency, and they have their own tower, but their call volume doesn't support, without getting into contracts, but
Yeah,
don't do that.
They're just Dumbarton.
So you think their issues are separate from the issue that you're trying to fix here, so it wouldn't be worth asking for their?
I would say that I think that our issues, without being a radio expert, their issues that they're having potentially could be our issue, but they have their own infrastructure that they pay for that seems to be working on their end, not on our end.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
But that's not gospel, because he doesn't know what he's talking about, more or less. Well, he's admitted that,
Within certain.
I got a question on the maintenance line also, communications.
On
And-
equipment and maintenance?
Yeah, equipment maintenance. In 2020, you budgeted 17.5, you spent 12.4. 21, you budgeted 17.5, so far you spent 93.53. Do you anticipate spending the whole 17.5 again?
We're gonna spend the majority of it. If we don't have any failures, we probably won't.
Okay.
But.
Dirk?
Can I just speak to that real quick as well? Last year in December, you had the fix at Station 17 that is not reflected in these numbers because it becomes a carry forward. It's an encumbered PO. So last year, I believe they actually overspent their
That was
equipment
yeah.
for Station 17 fix.
That was
So-
the 18,000 that we overspent that line.
So, that said, Derek, with this report, that doesn't show the encumbrances then?
Once they go into a carry forward year, they're not shown, again, we would have to bring in a revised budget line to show that it transfers over. This is really that snapshot at December 31st. Once it gets carried forward and encumbered into the next year, it is not reflected here, but I did know about that one, wanted to share that with you.
That's exactly what I was talking about with the retirement benefit. It got transferred in and then they took it out because of that.
But that could be shown on an encumbrance report.
Yes, absolutely, we could do an encumbrance report and show you.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea.
I can talk to Danielle and see what we can provide the board and budget committee.
Joe?
Yeah, I'm looking also at encumbered funds, 101,592. Is that, that's in CIP? Is that a vehicle, like you weren't able to obtain vehicles, or?
I'm sorry, I missed
So
that.
in CIP, police operation vehicles, 101,000 encumbered. None spent year to date. What is that? What's the reason for that?
No, that will be spent, you're talking about for right now?
I think he's talking about the PO under, I think it's your cruisers which have been ordered but not delivered.
For this year, we are seeing them come in. We just received
Okay.
2, they're down in Global. So yeah, you'll see that will be expended.
Well, is the only reason, I'm sorry, maybe I'm confused, but it's encumbered from
So
this year till next
if we haven't received the cruisers yet, we put in an order, we've set that money aside in a PO, but we may not have physically written the check, or perhaps a check may have gone out after September 30th.
Okay, and that's for all 3 of those vehicles?
Yes.
Okay.
What we're seeing, just a quick, what we're seeing with our vehicles, as everybody else is hearing the shortages, we soft order those in February, the budget passes, we order them as soon as the budget passes. We did that this year, a soft order in February. We just now started to receive them. They started manufacturing our cruisers in September. Last year, we didn't get them for a full year. So yeah, so by the time this budget was printed out, we just brought the checks up last week to Concord.
Okay.
So, or Laconia, excuse me.
Have you increased your fleet size in 4 years?
In 4 years?
In the last 4 years, have you increased your fleet size? Number of
No,
units?
fleet size, no. No.
Anybody else got questions? Again, we all know where to find the chief if we need to get a question.
Please, if anybody has any questions, concerns, I'm always open to talk and talk about it, so. Thank you all.
You're welcome. Thank you. Next up would be Diane McCarthy with Crispin's House.
Some handouts to share.
Thank you.
Some for the budget committee, I'm not sure we got there.
Diane, you got a microphone.
Yes, I do. Thank you. Okay. So, good evening. I am Diane McCarthy. I'm the Executive Director of Crispin's House Coalition for Youth here in Goffstown. With me also this evening is our outgoing president, Al Baines. Al has kindly served as president of our board for 16 years, and he is taking a step back. And we also have our incoming president, Lance Osier. So I'm with you this evening to ask your support in a warrant article in the amount of $20,000 for the 2022 warrant. This is the same amount that we have asked in the past. Last year, as with years prior, it did go through with unanimous recommendation of the select board and the budget committee, for which we are incredibly grateful. And it also did pass with overwhelming support from the voters, as it has done historically. For those of you who aren't familiar with who we are the nonprofit that advocates for children and families here in Goffstown. Our mission is to encourage and empower positive choices in the lives of our young people by helping to create a healthy and supportive community. To that end, we run a number of different programs. While they vary in their scope and size, their intention is all the same: to weave a safety net for our kids. We always have a mental health component. We always have a substance misuse component. Our programs start with our juvenile court diversion program that we have run, I think since 1979. We are one of the oldest in the state, which is to Goffstown's credit. We are one of 18 accredited juvenile court diversion programs in the state. And in a nutshell, we provide an alternative to court for our first-time juvenile offenders. As I did mention last year when I was here with you folks, there are some changes coming down the pike in juvenile justice in terms of how they handle our juvenile cases as of now. This is for first-time offenders. They are working on rewriting that so that we may have some kids maybe a few different times. In a nutshell, the data supports that the more touches a young person has on the court system, the higher the likelihood that they will become court involved as an adult. And I think we can all agree that's what we're working to avoid, and therefore we're looking to do whatever we can do to prevent those kinds of outcomes and give our kids the best outcomes they can. I also run a volunteers program. Now, I'm not going to go through all my programs just for time, and you guys can all read, but I did just want to highlight. So why do we do volunteers? Studies show that kids who volunteer feel more connected to their communities. They have higher rates of graduation. They do better in school. They're less likely to engage in risky behavior. Now, historically speaking, our volunteers program has focused a lot on grades 9 through 12. I do continue to do that. That's an independent, more of an independent program. But new this year, which I'm very excited about, is at Mountain View Middle School, I have introduced a club. And this is twofold, because you might know too that I like to keep our opportunities local with our young people. So one of my kids who's gone through my programs is actually now coming back. He's graduated from high school. He's in college, and he is working with me on this program for our 5th through 8th graders. So looking to bring age-appropriate volunteer activities for the kids that are supervised. It's after school, and it is off to a great start. We had our first meetings in like 15 kids, and we've got more coming as soccer and cross-country stops. So good stuff there. We run our youth forums. We have done that for many moons. We're in our 28th year at GHS. We are currently not offering it at Mountain View, although Ms. Kohler and I have a plan to revisit that in the coming months. It had been suspended at MVMS due to COVID. But again, that's bringing our kids and our adults around the same table, building relationships, empowering the youth voice, connecting the kids at GHS to other opportunities. It's really unique to Goffstown, and it is absolutely to our town's credit. Mental health, suicide prevention. As I mentioned, all my programs have that component, but I'd be remiss if I didn't share with all of you the impacts that COVID-19 have had on our young people and on their mental health. Last estimates I'm hearing from school psychologists, we're expecting to see these impacts for at least 8 years. We went into this in New Hampshire with a critical shortage of mental health providers for our young people. We also went into this with higher than the national average of incidents for mental health, both challenges and crises with our young people. And my point to all of this is to let you know we are not letting up. My budget is up slightly this year, and part of that is beefing up our suicide prevention and our mental health programming. I've got a couple in the works in partnership with NAMI, and then also in partnership with the school district. A few years ago, you might remember I mentioned we did the full day youth leader suicide prevention. Now that was for our high school students to better equip them to identify a mental health crisis and respond to a challenge appropriately. That training caps out at 30 young people. We had a waiting list. That's how interested everybody was. Additionally speaking, it was supposed to cap out at 15 adults. And I got in trouble by, I had way more adults there when we were supposed to, but that is to our town's credit, because guess what? Our adults show up. And that is spectacular and always humbling to me. Substance misuse prevention, same thing. We are seeing an uptick there. We do have programs coming down the pipeline. We are reworking, or Breathe New Hampshire is reworking their anti-vaping. My GHS Youth Forum is beginning to work on some, they want to tackle marijuana use, prevention. So I'm supporting them as we go. Anything else that I see here, I guess in the essence of time, I do just want to conclude that this year we have, we've had somebody trained in Take Control, which is an evidence-based anger management program for teens, so we'll be able to offer that locally here. Historically, we have had to send our young people to Derry. That's the closest we can do. That was done in partnership with GPD. Thank you very much, Chief Serino, as partnerships. I also got certified to be an instructor for teen mental health first aid and youth mental health first aid. Teen is teaching the teens how, a peer-to-peer, whereas youth mental health first aid is for all you folks and helping you guys identify crises, challenges, and respond. We have not had anybody local here since I've been at Crispin's House, I don't think. And these trainings were really big deals. They came about as grants. The bill on that was like $10,000 that we did not have to pay because grants covered it through our partners. So going back to the dollars, as you can see, the $20,000 warrant article that we do ask is sitting at 20% of our revenue. We don't, as you all know, we don't sit back and just take it for granted. The bulk of our income comes from grants, partnerships, fundraising. I'm sure you all know fundraising has been super interesting in the last 18 months for Crispin's House and with all nonprofits, with anybody. But our fundraisers have always been about community building and bringing people together. And of course, when you're in a pandemic, that doesn't work out. So, we have sought different alternatives. We are most certainly hoping that we can resume 3-on-3 because that's our biggest, but I'm not taking that for granted. We were able to resume our softball tournament this year, and if you weren't there, you were missing out. Always a good time. And then just lastly, I've said it before, I'll say it again. This warrant article, that other, the other 80% of our budget, the grants, when you write a grant, the first thing they're asking, who supports you? And that we can, say, we are supported by this $20,000 warrant article. As much as it's a small piece of that pie, it is in the overall scheme of our sustainability and our efficacy, it is the biggest piece of the pie. So,
Questions? What's the majority of your budget spent on?
programming, it goes directly to the kids. We have very, very low overhead. This all really, as you can see, Pete, I send it right back through. It's our programs. I don't spend money on tchotchkes. It's all what's going to hit our impact. I don't spend anything on advertising. Maybe I should, but it's all, I send it right back to our programs.
Thank you.
You're
Anybody
welcome.
else?
Thank you.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you so much. If anybody has any questions, you know where to find me.
Next up is Main Street.
Hello, boy. With me. And someone with me. Cut up with me. Okay, I'm Ellen Ramakowitz. I'm here from the Goffstown Main Street program, presenting a request for the annual warrant article for the support of Main Street that I wrote up what they normally say. Warrant article, shall the town raise and appropriate $15,000 for the purpose of helping to support the nonprofit Main Street program. As an explanation, this article will continue taxpayer support for the Main Street program. Main Street brings community vitality to our historic village district with special events and support opportunities for our businesses. Main Street also provides volunteer opportunities for all residents, including seniors, citizens, and the high school students, which we had this past weekend at the regatta, and it was great to see those two generations working together as volunteers. That I think is a very positive thing to bring to town. We create opportunities for our businesses to showcase themselves, to be a part of our community, and to bring more patrons into them. The program encourages shop small and local, primarily over the holiday season, of course, along with providing an avenue for all our businesses to post help wanted ads and promotional ads on the Main Street Facebook page, which has reached as many as over 60,000 people. So it's a great opportunity for our businesses to post, especially the help wanted. Everybody seems to need help these days, and to put a light on themselves. Main Street provides businesses with an opportunity to apply for the facade improvement grants, so we help the businesses financially if they want to improve the outside of their storefront. Passage of this article provide $15,000 to help fund operating costs, for the office rental, utilities. We do have appropriate insurances for liabilities and so on. Office supplies are legal services. We have a retainer. And to pay the town services for fire, police, and EMTs, which next year looks like it's going to be to us over $5,000 just for the regatta. So we need.
But you only paid half this year, right?
We paid about $3,300 this
But
year.
you paid half of the fire department.
Of the fire, EMT.
The town did.
Fire and EMTs,
Yeah.
yes, you're absolutely correct. And that's why it'll be going up next year. But that's part of our overhead. The organization does fundraise. We have a golf fundraiser in the spring, brings in some revenues, some proceeds from each of our events. We do have sponsorships. This year, I think we had close to $10,000 in sponsorships, either annual sponsorships or businesses locally and at a distance that sponsor events or parts of events, like pieces of the regatta. People sponsor teams or something like that. So we get sponsorships that way. We do get some donations, and we did receive a grant or two this past year. We also rely very heavily on bequeathed funds that we received several years ago. And it's because of those funds that Main Street's been able to keep functioning the past couple of years through the pandemic and going on. We sponsored the Pumpkin Regatta, which is a huge event here in Goffstown, as you all know, and everybody loves it and looks forward to it. We also sponsored the Friday Night Under the Lights, the Christmas tree, the lighting, the little ceremony we do at night. Santa's coming this year to it. There was no revenue from that for Main Street. That is a complete expense to us to bring to the village and bring people in for our businesses. The article demonstrates strong continued community support for our efforts to bring vitality to the village, support businesses, and to provide, preserve the historic nature of the village. I'd also like to say that after coming off this past weekend of the regatta and hearing from so many people who attended, it was just exciting for everyone to have and to be able to get out and see each other again. Would like to inform the select board that we have had a major change in the Main Street operations. We are in the beginning stages of totally reorganizing ourselves, looking toward being more of a complete volunteer organization. We've had 5 or 6 people express an interest to join the board of directors. And we're looking for that board to grow, get more people on it, for those people on the board to be doing the actual operating work of the organization, whether it's the office work, whatever, and then putting on the events we choose to put on, maybe streamlining a little bit. But looking into some major changes to hopefully better serve the greater community and our businesses. We can focus a little bit more on that to the greatest extent that we can. Excuse me. We're looking forward to the next year, and we hope that you and the public, thank you and the public for their ongoing support of the Main Street program. Okay.
Do you have any paperwork to hand out, spreadsheets?
No, I didn't bring any
revenues?
spreadsheets or anything, but I did bring,
Nothing on revenues or expenses or anything?
I didn't bring a budget to share. We bring in our proceeds, the net from our activities is under $10,000. We don't bring in enough each year to support ourselves. That's why we're relying on the town support and the monies that were bequeathed to us.
And you can supply the board with that?
With
a spreadsheet of
I can
revenues and
create one.
expenses?
I can provide something for you.
Know, like Diane gave us, where the funds come from and...
Oh, well, okay, the fund, did I read that part?
Yeah, but I mean, you read
Well, I
it,
mean-
but can you get us a copy of it?
copy of
And in
it.
the past, we've gotten line by lines of
Yeah,
budget,
in
and
the
what
past,
it looks like.
yeah.
and-
The total budget thing?
Yep.
Okay, I will get that to you. This is basically what I just presented, so I'll just pass that over. Where'd she go? Okay. I do have our treasurer, she has a general summary if you'd like with regard to revenues, expenditures, but it's an overall summary. I will get you a budget sheet. This will be from the past year, and the following year's budget is not made until January, February, and it's going to be significantly different without having a director. That will make a significant impact to us.
Ellen, I can appreciate, you should too,
Yep.
working on budgets before.
Yep.
As you're coming in asking us for money,
Mhm.
we usually have a budget to work with. We just heard police, fire, DPW, Parks and Rec,
Right.
everybody else has presented us with a budget, is why they need the money.
Yep.
I would hope that we could
I
get something
I
from
will
you.
certainly submit to the select board, try and get down here tomorrow, actually. It would be this past year's budget, because we haven't created the next year's budget yet, but you'll have an idea of what we spend and what we bring in, certainly from that.
And that'll
That's
include the
okay.
last weekend?
Yes.
Can you also forward that,
Right, Tina? Okay.
can you forward that over to the budget committee? And
Oh, to the budget committee too. Okay.
as of right now, what percentage is the 15K of the total budget?
Well, it'll be 15% if we have 100,000. I'd have to do the subtracting. If we have, I'd say it's around 20%.
20% of your funding?
About, yeah. I can do a closer calculation by subtracting and.
Yeah, we need to see the expenses.
I need to see that whole breakdown. I will definitely have that for you and I'll bring it in. So one for the select board and.
Forward that to Catherine Fisher and she can forward it out to her.
Catherine Fisher, okay.
Budget committee members have questions? Don't all jump up at once. All right, Joe, you all set?
It's hard to have questions, I haven't seen anything. So
Yeah, I know you want to see.
Board of Selectmen, anybody have any? No?
Look forward to the budget numbers.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll look forward to seeing your paperwork.
I didn't think you wanted the past years, but I will get that to you. Okay, I will.
Appreciate it.
I will definitely get that to you. I should have done that. You are correct, Peter. So, there's no other questions, but you know where to reach me if you have any questions or
Yes,
need
ma'am.
any other information, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
I think that concludes our budget meeting for
Does anyone
tonight.
have anything else? Budget committee?
All right, so that'll conclude our joint meeting. We'll continue on with our select board meeting. Is there anybody here for public comment? Seeing none, that'll conclude our meeting, public portion of our meeting tonight. We won't be making any recommendations tonight, so.
Make a motion?
Make a motion?
I'll make a motion, go into non-public session, RSA 91A:32 for A, personnel. Anything else, Derek, or is it?
No, that's it.
Jim seconded. Seconded by Jim.
Yes?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. That'll conclude our public portion of tonight's meeting. Thank you.
Oh, really?